This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, and you're watching Dr. Politics. We got our special guest doctor, Dr. Mark, is in today. Dr. Shepard is out today. He is attending patients in Virginia. They do have early voting going on right now. And let's just start with this week we lost.
I was going to comment. Are those new photographs in the launch, or is?
Oh yeah, it's a new one. It's this is this is different from the one we had back when you were regularly doing the show.
Okay.
Yeah, so he does update this once in a while.
Yeah, I really need to update this right now. Because we do have new pictures. I've got a new opening. We got like a bunch of more people that are saying you're watching Dr. Politics. We got what's his name, Lee Zeldin, and we've got the congressman whose name fails me. Howie Dennis used to work for him. Daryl Issa, got him, and added those. I forgot to get Scott Walker, but I think I'm going to be able to get that.
I was going to say Howie worked for Tom Davis as well, but I can't imagine you forgetting his name.
No, actually, Direct Line may have Tom Davis one relatively soon. Because I was talking to Gov Orlick about getting Tom to do Direct Line.
Good.
But yeah, this has been a fast-paced week. We've transitioned from fake fall to basically what is it, second summer is what they call it, or to the more chillier temperatures next week. We're back in the second summer, so to speak, or the fake spring, and then I think this year we're going to be a lot warmer than years past. I don't think we're getting as much snow at all. Although I think we're long overdue for a big blizzard, But a lot of things this week. Kamala Harris made a fool of herself at doing that, basically snubbing the Al Smith dinner, and instead sending a little very bad video with a Saturday Night Live personality on there. But yeah, so anyway, and we lost a really good friend of ours just yesterday. Our friend Diana Waterman. I figured we'll start with that. I first met Diana in 2011 when she was running for vice chair. She was always very perky and happy, and nothing really seemed to get her down. She didn't hold a grudge, because as we all know, we've been on different sides on various things. Sometimes we were on Diana's side, sometimes we were not on Diana's side. She never held that against any of us for, voting, being true to it. And we'll just start, Mark, you've probably known her longer than I have.
Well, that is true. She's obviously been a high-profile figure within the party for a number of years. She was first vice chair under Alex Mooney, and then when Alex decided that greener pastures politically were in West Virginia, and moved to the the mountaineer state. She moved up to be party chairman, and then went on to win it in her own right, and was an effective leader.
And she was in the right place in history. Under her chairmanship, we elected a Republican governor and a Republican president. She was in basically the right place at the right time, so to speak.
She was, and we also picked up seats in the light. I mean, there were a lot of positive things that happened. Yeah. She took over a party that was financially struggling and put it on an even keel. And, hired effective staff to help her, and really was a very positive.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was saying, I think one of her best decisions was to hire Margot to be the finance director for the party, and Margot was phenomenal. And the fact that she now is the Pennsylvania GOP's finance director, over there, she's much bigger sandbox over there in Pennsylvania than she was playing in Maryland. But all in all, I mean, Diana, was a stand-up gal. She did the right thing, not the popular thing, as politicians are prone to do, is the popular thing, not the right thing all the time, some of them. But Diana
and she also stayed involved after being chairman as well, and was very active in the Women's Federation, and actually led that for a number of years. Again, after her tenure as a state party chairman, she was a candidate for National Committee woman 4 years ago in 2020 against Nicolay Ambrose, and that was a close race. Probably came down to the fact that David Bossie wanted to run as a team with Nicolay, and had an endorsement from then President Trump that made the difference. But I think even then, it was really a battle of titans, because Diana was held in such high regard within the party.
John, you want to share some Diana stories?
No, I mean, you guys have definitely worked with her a lot more than I did. That's for sure. I mean, I think, the only thing I could really recall was, when at a CPAC, we had an extensive conversation about a lot of different things, and many years ago, and I don't know. I mean, like both of you said, I mean, just a stand-up person, just someone who was really loyal to the party. She worked hard. I think, Mark, we don't see that many people who have held offices like she did, that after they left that particular office stayed as involved. A lot of times the people would just kind of disappear on you, but she's been very active, very prominent all the way around. So I always admired her for everything that she did for the party, and just a wonderful person. She brought her kids would. I remember her kids showing up to events and things like that, and so it was great. I mean, as we all know, I mean, holding these offices is not an easy thing. You're all over the state. That's a lot. That's a lot of time, money, miles, whatever you want to call it. And she was a tireless worker, and it's sad. It's sad that we have lost her, and it's another. Cancer has claimed another victim. As we learn with cancer, is that you can keep it at bay for a while, but somehow inevitably, and with quite a few people, it does recur, and the recurrence tends to be worse than the original occurrence of it. And it's unfortunate in her case. She was still pretty young. I mean, I just turned 65. I mean, she was what, 63?
Yeah.
It once again, it reminds you about just how short life can be sometimes, right?
Indeed. I mean,
go ahead. I was saying this is my favorite Diana Waterman picture. This is at one of our conventions, and this is me suggesting to Diana. We were about doing the convention in Ocean City.
You could put lots of captions on those things.
Yeah.
What the heck are you talking about?
Yeah. And actually, my favorite story is we were at I think it was an Ocean City convention, and we're right about to adjourn. And I go to the mic, and I make a comment. She goes, "You better be making a motion to adjourn." Is what her comment was, something along those lines. I go, "Yes, but I got a statement before that." She goes, and I go, you've recognized me, so I got the." So basically, my comment was, because that was our first time back in Ocean City in almost 4 years. I said, let's not wait another 4 years to come back to Ocean City. Let's come back here next year, if not next year, the following year. And we did.
So a memo to chairman, both in the future, and present, is that if you want to keep Dwight happy, you schedule the convention for Ocean City.
It needs to be designated as a permanent location for.
We used to always, years ago, Maryland GOP would always have their spring convention in Ocean City in the fall in Annapolis. That's how it always was for years. And then we had this idea of moving the spring convention around and doing it in these places. I'll tell you, last year's, of all the conventions I've been to since 2011, 10 actually, I should say, last spring's was the worst by all means. No offense to our, selection committee that selected the location and all that, but it was the worst. But yeah, and with that, let's do what Diana would want us to be doing, is talking about the elections and how campaigns, going on. By the way, Don, did you see the CNN poll where more Americans identify as Republicans?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating. This is the first time in my lifetime, I think.
First time I think they said it was first time in 40 years. So that encompasses a good portion of your lifetime, Dwight.
Yes, it does. That is true.
No, so tell me again. I missed the story. So who was the pollster?
So CNN did this poll, and they found that they said in 2016 it was D+3. In 2020 it was D+6. 2024 it's R+1. So it's a pretty big shift.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Harry Anton, who's we know the CNN people they're not conservative.
Right.
And when they put up polls like this, and they have had polls throughout this campaign where they have talked about the Democrats should be worried about this, that, and the other. I mean, the trends are not going in their favor. And this was even a month ago. They had thrown out some other things too. But now after this Fox News interview, I wonder if Harris campaign people are saying like, we never should have done that one.
Actually, the Harris campaign is trying to think maybe we should, was she really the best we had?
So there's the betting market. There's a particular one, the lead one called Poly Market. So Dwight, when we did the show last week, it had Trump up 55-45.
Yeah.
And then it actually jumped a couple of days ago to like 62. It's back down to 60 for Trump. But still, the betting markets are 5 points higher, in the last 7 days. So the last time we did this show, they're up. Trump is up by another 5 points. Things are getting away from her. There's that, and there's the John Stossel kind of site that does this betting odds thing, and they've been having Harris winning the popular vote. Now they've got Trump running away with the popular vote as well as the electoral college vote. It's just we don't know how these things are going to go in the end, right? I mean, we have to see what the votes were counted, but it is just not looking good for the Harris campaign. I have felt for a while that we're in that situation where you're going to see people who have not been polled or will not talk to the pollsters they're going to show up and vote for Trump on election day, and all these tight polls that we're seeing in the swing states are going to be off. That blue wall is coming down again and going back to Trump.
Yeah. And I think
Our good friend Craig made a great comment about referencing, there we go, the not showing up at the Al Smith dinner. And, that's a great topic. It is an absolute unforced error. It's sort of amazing that she would step into that. It's sort of it's clearly a tradition. Both parties candidates for both parties have followed that. It's always good for the candidates too, because we're right now the very intense season historically for presidential elections, and it gives them, the candidates, an opportunity to show their lighter side, to kind of show a little balance and humanize them. Maybe that's the better word to describe that. And it's an opportunity that was really just missed by her. And it's hard to see that there would have been any other locale that would have made would have been made more of a positive impact to her campaign to participate. But overlay on top of that the fact that the party, the Democratic Party, and her specifically, have been struggling with Catholics, and that in so many of the key states that are those kind of electoral college keys, that Catholic vote, that working traditional Catholic vote, is pretty important. Not that it isn't important elsewhere. I don't get. I just am surprised that they would not put that.
Yeah, I agree with Craig. I mean, that whole video thing was like, who planned that? I mean,
Yeah.
It's like she doesn't show up to this dinner. The first time this has happened in 40 years that both candidates haven't been there. I mean, Donald Trump is always kind of the X factor. You never know where he's going to go with anything. Right. But he showed quite a bit of humor there. And this is, as you're pointing out, I mean, having some levity is a good thing for these candidates. This is, as you point out, a very kind of hard time. They're exhausted. They're running full bore. They're trying to find those last votes, all of these things. And this is a chance for them to kind of lay back, lighten up, have some fun. Republicans and Democrats, kind of put your differences aside, and let's just poke fun at each other, poke fun at ourselves. And it just kind of makes you wonder about Harris too. It's like, is she incapable of that too? I think that. I mean, she probably would have bombed had she been there, but the fact that she wasn't there and then did this horrible video, I think that only adds insult to injury. I mean, the Catholics are already up in arms with her for a lot of different things, and the whole Gretchen Whitmer incident with the Dorito chip.
Yeah, that would have been the only thing worse to do. Than that video is horrible. But what would have been worse if she did a video of getting communion Doritos from Gretchen Whitmer? Frankly, that would have been the only thing worse. Frankly, I mean, come on. Liberals, aren't you guys really more creative? And isn't Hollywood? Couldn't you get some Hollywood comedy writers? Maybe not from SNL because they're not funny anymore, but could have gotten some decent comedy writers to write her bits for her. She could have done this, and she actually could have done decent if she had. Because all those writers are all backing her. They could have written her up something, but she has a disdain, I think, for Catholics in general, just like she has the same time disdain. Because I really hate to say, if you don't want to say this, but I think basically a lot of Democrats are atheists and they're ashamed of people with faith, and that's the real reason she didn't want to go there. That's like she's and that's the reason she's for abortion on demand, she's for infanticide. She is for everything the Catholic Church is. She's for everything the Catholic Church is pretty much against,
But as we've talked about, this dinner has never been ideological. Well, never been. It's not primarily ideological. It's
Absolutely,
a chance to create a kind of more.
I mean, Jimmy Carter went to this.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's interesting. It is, from a strategic point of view, it would be very helpful for her campaign to be able to thrive in that kind of environment. And to your point, Dwight, you're absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of writers, to come up with, some good jokes about it. So she takes a couple of jokes at her own expense, maybe one or two at Joe Biden's expense, and then comes up with a zinger that makes Donald Trump steam a little bit, and moves on. I mean, it really is. It's a natural environment that most politicians would have been able to thrive at.
Look at Hillary Clinton. She did the dinner in 2016, and she poked fun at herself, and she did her little basket of adorables comment there. And Hillary, that would have if she had done it, would have made her look a little bit more human. She's kind of a little wooden and robotic, frankly. She would have been more humanized if she had done it, frankly.
See, it's important to remember. I mean, this is not an environment where you're doing unscripted answers to questions, right? you get to when you get up, you do your. I don't know how much time you actually
maybe her
have.
Writers thought after. I was saying maybe her writers thought after the 60 Minutes interview, which was scripted, and she botched that, and they had to edit the thing together to make her look
right
decent. Maybe that's why she decided not to do it.
No, but you're right. I mean, it's just she had this. This was a great opportunity to humanize herself. I begin to wonder too. I mean, is she not comfortable in her own skin? Kind of a thing like that. She definitely has a problem, I think, connecting with people, and I think there's a factor of, I'm afraid I'm going to completely bomb this whole thing. But I love that point that you're making, though. It's like, man, if they could have written something for her to zing Donald Trump, that would have been a wild evening.
Right.
Because
Trump
has got a thin skin.
Yes,
sure. So that's really the tightrope that you got to get to the Smith dinner, which is you got to have most of the stuff that's direct. You got to take a few shots at yourself and shots about some stuff in general and what have you, and you kind of get like one or two opportunities for zinger and against the other side. If you do too much of that, you basically have lost. You lose the room, because that's just not what's expected. But anybody, I got a book about speech writing here. Great book. And I got to believe that, one of the things that they talk about is going back and looking at old material. There's plenty of old material from the fact that this thing has been going on for so many years to go back through and see exactly kind of what the right cadence is and what have you. Let me just take another point, which I am astonished that, given all her challenges with the press and interviews and what have you, that during the last 3.5 years, so when a lot of this stuff became apparent of her challenges, as vice president, she had plenty of time to, practice, do interviews, speak and listen to how focus groups respond to that, and to get better at what is a real challenge for her, and get better. And that just doesn't seem to have happened.
Yeah, look, I mean, right. There are people, right? There are professionals who could take it, film her, just do this interview, and then come back and say, let's critique what happened, and here's what we need to do. And you continue to work on that and improve that. There's nothing about that, because every interview is so similar to each other. She still keeps running into the same problems, interview after interview after interview. And, so you see that again, if you're an undecided voter, you're not going to be undecided after you watch her a few times like that.
So, Dwight, I have to get in a plug here for our joint product, which is the Republican Toolbox, right?
Yes.
And one of the things, and one of the things that we preach in that, we talk about communications, is getting ready for interviews. Getting ready, sitting down with the 20 questions that are going to come up. And, to be honest with you, reporters are not all that original. and be prepared with responses for it. Know how to answer just enough of the question, but answer what you want to answer. But acknowledge the question so you're not completely going off on a strange tangent. Try and find some points of agreement if that's an issue in a hostile one. Then there really are some basic lessons that we would recommend just the most basic beginning candidate to be prepared to do if they're going to be in an interview setting. Dwight, you should be able to put up a URL flash as to how to start. I'm sorry, I'm pulling your leg there. But yes, this is content that is from a sort of political consultant, political advisor, political hanger-on, whatever, 101 as to how to conduct a campaign. And certainly she ran for president. She was vice president for 3.5 years. She probably had plenty of time and resources to perfect her craft.
Yeah, and I think she might have Emperor's New Clothes syndrome, so to speak, where she basically, people are afraid to tell her she's not doing a good job. I think Hillary Clinton had the same problem where everyone was scared to death to tell her that she's not doing a good job, frankly. Unlike our favorite councilman from Baltimore County, who's constantly asking people, how am I doing?
Wait a second. That's a great line. That was Ed Koch's. That was just sheer genius. How am I doing? It was a great opening. And
you know who used it before Ed Koch was Governor McKeldin. How
really?
am I doing?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How am I doing?
Okay. And that's where Dave Marks probably got it from, Councilman Marks. Because he's been asking that since he was College Republicans chairman. Hey, am I doing a good job? How am I doing? How am I doing? And there's something to be said about that. If Kamala could actually ask, how am I doing? And and then if somebody said you're doing a lousy job, if she could take that to heart, like say Dave could, if you tell Dave, hey, I think you're not doing this right.
That's a retail.
Yeah.
Retail. Not to digress, but Howie Dennis was a masterful. He's still active, but a masterful retail politician.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And who else does that really well is Susan Collins in Maine. I know a lot of people thought last time around Susan was going down. I was like, no, wait, they're not. She's not going to go down because they love her in all those small towns like Millinocket, Bangor, all those one-horse towns, where you go to lumberjack festivals and stuff like that. Susan's out there, throwing axes. Well, I don't think she does that anymore. She did it when she was younger, but I don't think she's up there in years.
Do we have?
Let me tell you, if that's required,
axe throwing contest, really?
She actually did that. There was something in northern Maine. It was like some town. I don't live in Maine, so I could say it. Maybe sort of a hick town in Maine. Where
that would disqualify me from a career in Maine politics. I don't think
throwing
I could
axes.
do the
It's not that hard. It's just like throwing a tomahawk.
But you got to get it land right. You got to, don't you?
Close enough.
You just don't pick it up and throw it.
It's like
you don't just throw it. You got to have it.
Yeah, but it's kind of like horseshoes and hand grenades. You got to close enough.
So Dwight,
maybe that's
you
what
and
Kamala
I
should do.
You and I, I know. So you and I are going to work on a special bonus supplement to the Republican toolbox, right?
Okay.
And when in Maine, here's how to throw an axe.
Yeah, we could do that. Paul Young, who ran for Congress that same year in Maine, he actually, it's funny. He was actually really good at the axe throw. Yeah. Because in Maine, what's there in Maine? It's kind of like, it's almost like when I did Randall Terry's race in upstate New York. It's such, they have a whole festival around a loose meat sandwich called the Speedy. And they have a Speedy festival. It's a week-long festival about the Speedy sandwich. and it's kind of like like we used to joke as a kid how Maine, if it were, it's basically West Virginia next to Canada, you know.
Well,
gotta,
it's an interesting lesson. There's this is not just a New York thing, although it's especially a New York thing, of being able to eat appropriately local foods, right?
yeah.
Some among the gaffes that people have pulled along these lines, I think I hope I get this right, but wasn't it John Kerry who didn't peel off the tamale? Maybe it was somebody else. I don't know.
It sounds like something John Kerry would do.
Yeah, it does. So there's clearly kind of a mandate to be able to get that. Again, we're talking about the things that make a candidate sometimes seem or present as being a nice person.
You think John Kerry asked if use grape poupon one there?
Yeah, something like that. Do you get this? Do you get this? Anyway, in Buffalo, in the Broadway Market, which is this large kind of lots and lots of vendors, what have you, there's horseradish. And so visiting politicians sometimes get told, you got to have a spoonful of horseradish. And what their advanced people need to tell them is there is a method to eating horseradish, like that large amount of horseradish, so that you won't blow your nose out, which is once you eat the horseradish right away, keep your mouth shut and then swallow it. And so politicians coming to Buffalo that perhaps are not in the good graces of their advance team for one reason or other can get taken to the Broadway Market and told that they have to eat horseradish. And maybe somebody demonstrates to them, no, it's no problem. Here's, without explaining the secret of eating horseradish, and they come away not wanting to campaign in Buffalo anymore.
All right, so I did a quick check about the food faux pas. There's actually a way to find that out quickly. So it's Gerald Ford and the tamale.
Oh.
But it was John Kerry. His food faux pas was ordering a Philly cheesesteak with Swiss cheese and not Cheese Whiz.
He was looking for the healthier option, I guess.
So basically what you're saying is that the trend that we're seeing with the Hispanic vote moving towards the Republican Party might have started a couple of decades earlier, but for the fact that Jerry Ford didn't know how to eat a tamale.
Yeah. You lost the Hispanic vote because you ate the tamale wrapper.
So Don, let me put you on the spot. If a candidate is going to Utah, is there a particular way they should eat their Jell-O?
No, I mean, look, what is it? Utah? Jell-O and funeral potatoes, and casserole. Those are the things you can pretty much count on in Utah. It's always kind of a funny thing for us here because we're kind of like, we're removed from that Utah thing. And obviously I know my Latter-day Saint congregations and stuff like that. And so there's still some family traditions that get passed down. But my father was not he wasn't an active member of the church. So I'm disassociated from any of that. So, we're Asian. We're mostly Asian. So we just do the Asian thing, whatever that will be, which is a much better thing in the end.
I tell you, remember, speaking of food faux pas, John Kasich, with the pizza, he decided to eat it with a knife and fork. It was the New York thin crust. He didn't fold it. Thin crust you eat with your hands. It's the deep dish you need a knife and fork for.
Yeah. So for any pizza faux pas, we go to Dwight. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. We'll have a whole course on different for the toolbox. A whole course on different styles of.
You can go to the Maryland
and Dwight. You know what his real strength will be. I like that. Thank you, Greg. He will tell you what foods to order in Ocean City.
Yes. Thrasher's French fries, Dough Roller's Pizza, and the ice cream place. The name fails me right now. There's what is it? Jurors or something, or drummers, I think is the name of the place. But yeah, pizza and French fries, the boardwalk fries. Liliana is more of the French fries expert than I am. But yeah. And we've got, if that weren't bad.
I just want to say one more thing regarding the toolbox and just the whole interview thing too. Is just that I think what we're seeing here with Kamala is just that can be used as an example. She's putting on a clinic of how not to be, how not
That's
to
right.
not to do an interview. So you can just take clips from all these interviews that she's done and tell people it's like, this is not what you're supposed to do, because you could go, she's done it over and over and over again. You can't do it. It's like you should be doing this and definitely not this. So anyway,
to elaborate on that, one of the things that I've always advocated for people doing interviews is not to do long compound sentences, to be short and punchy. And one of the risks that you have with these kind of extended word salad things is you have a quote that could be just come out disastrous because you had a but at the end of it, or you had something that changed the meaning of that. And she violates that rule quite some time. I was once quoted in the New York Daily News as saying, they were covering a debate I was participating in, and I said, this was about privatization of municipal services, that privatization is not a panacea. And that's what they quoted, but it was followed by a but, in which I made a substantive point. And I make that kind of point that's an example of where a compound sentence gets condensed in the quote, and you can end up as a result letting a reporter, I quoted you exactly, but that's the meaning is wrong.
But the context is completely different.
But the context is completely different. So that's why you really want to, when you respond, know what your quote is, what you want is your message, and stick to it, and maybe flip it around a couple of ways to make sure that it's really driven home. And she, when you listen to her, she is obviously she's a challenge to figure out what you're supposed to pull out of what the answer is. That is her point. And that's something a politician answering a question should never be in that position.
That's why I like when Brett Baer asks her the question, and she talks about you talked about turning the page, and she's always she does a lot. She talks a lot with her hands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount of time. Kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'd use this. Maybe this is a distraction or something. She does this all the time, and I thought Brett did a pretty good job, because he tried to pin her down, saying, but you've been in office for 3.5 years. What are we turning the page from? And this answer, which is weird to me, is like, well, for the last decade. Okay. All right. For the last decade, please tell me.
Yes, 8 years in
Donald Trump was in office for 4 of those years. That's it. Right.
Yeah.
The Democrats had control of the White House otherwise. So what are we turning the page from? There's just all these answers don't make any sense. As you say, Mark, it's really hard. I think that's just why people make fun of her, because they're like, what did she say? What's the point here? We don't understand what the point is, because she has gone on those long, sentences that just go around, and they contradict each other, and it's just
right.
I know it makes my head spin.
Well, I think as an ADD nation, I think if you can't say what you want to say in, say, at the most 5 to 8 words, don't say it, frankly.
Well, you can say more, but you should know what the bumper sticker statement is that you want to be the takeaway.
Well, it's kind of like when Jim Gilmore ran for governor. Everything was the car tax. You ask Jim a question, he goes, yeah, and the car taxes, he would bring it back. Everything would be back about the car tax, ending the car tax. And I think that's one thing that Kamala, and here's the thing, Kamala Harris, the only thing you draw from all of her speeches, I'm not Trump. And that is it. She's not giving us, ideas. And I think she should go talk to John Kerry's campaign team. How did I'm Not Bush work out for them in 2004?
Well, and that is the nub of the strategic issue that they have, which is that they have been running against Donald Trump personally, and part of I'm surmising part of the problem is that everybody they know doesn't like. I mean, because of the way people are aggregated or come together today, they don't know anybody who's a Republican unless they're in office, and that's who they have to deal with. And so they really have trouble comprehending the fact that half the country, that we're divided right down the middle, and that they don't appeal. And I think add to that the blocks of voters that are shifting. We were talking at that outset about the shift in alliances. That's not coming from the people running the campaign have ever met or know. I mean, they tend to be, frankly, non-college educated, working class voters. That's really where the biggest movement has been taken towards the Republican Party. And they're just focusing on the people they already know. And for them, they've been waiting for the shoe to drop where Trump would be, he'd be indicted, he'd be convicted, he would whatever, and he would be out.
Well, remember Jamie Raskin, your congressman and mine, and I think Don, he's your congressman too, right? Jamie Raskin. He's already talking about how he's going to oppose President Trump if he wins. He's going to try to prevent him from taking office as president. Are we going to have a Democrat January 6th? Maybe they'll do it like January 7th instead of January 6th. But are they going to riot and storm the Capitol, the Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, look, the January 6th thing, it loses a lot of its luster or whatever for the Democrats. I mean, I think James Carville has said that they've got to move away from that. The Democrats are they're just too devoted to that. And that doesn't help them at all. Also, I think as we're talking here too, I mean, this whole thing about where Kamala, with Colbert, is like, well, for one thing, I'm not Donald Trump, and she gets an applause line or whatever. It's like, yeah, we know you're not Donald Trump, but you can't win by saying I'm not Donald Trump. 4 years ago, we were in a very odd situation with the pandemic, and Joe Biden could hide away; he didn't have to face the press, and there were a lot they could convince people with the time that they had that anybody was better than Donald Trump. But almost 4 years has passed, and people have seen what happens under a Biden-Harris administration. And they're tired of it. That's they don't like the policies. They don't like the inflation. Nothing. There really isn't anything there for a lot of people. The average American to like. So, but saying that you're not Donald Trump is not a winning strategy. Yeah. Talking about we've brought inflation down. Well, not if you compare it to when Trump left office, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
wait till they revise those numbers, like the crime numbers, Don. We had no crimes. David Muir basically went after President Trump at the debate, saying crime's gone down, crime's gone. And what did the FBI do? Police?
So when I talk to Democrats, I think one of the fundamental problems that they have on economic policy and communicating politically is they approach it from a Keynesian model, which is that you create enough demand that the economy is firing away on all cylinders, the government spends money, there's demand out there, and everything else will take care of itself. And that's it. And there's a desire to, point to the unemployment numbers and say, well, but what could you possibly be upset about? We've talked about, and then when to talk about inflation, to talk about it, 1 month to an up, tick down, whatever, missing the key point that Don just made, which is the inflation pain is the difference between costs being up here and income being here, and there's a gap, and the gap isn't, 0.2%. It's it's a lot. It's depending what your income going up, with a 20%, few incomes have matched the 20% that we've had cumulatively inflation, and that point, I just doesn't seem to connect.
Yeah, I mean those prices are not going back down. I mean, we're not going to see
Right.
those levels again, and so those are things that are now built in, and we're going to only see them. They may not increase at the rate they were at at that 8% that we had seen before, but still inflation goes along at a 2% pace for a while. I mean, there's just more pain being inflicted on all of us as a result of that. My wife, she watches this stuff and she just like. She's like the eggs. It's like she can't believe how much difference. Prices of some of our basics, which almost everybody uses, right? I mean, the milk, the bread, the eggs.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to offend somebody in our audience, but here's my observation: if you buy all your groceries at Whole Foods, then price is no object. And there's no pain to be had.
I mean, Mark, I go to Whole Foods. They got really good pizza there at Whole Foods, and their breads and baked goods.
I knew I'd get in trouble with that one.
They got really good. They got really good vegetables. But here's the thing, or even Amazon Prime for that matter. I like those. I actually do like
those.
Amazon
Are terrible
Prime.
stores. I'm sorry.
I
This is
like
a whole other topic.
I like that store.
I haven't
Amazon Prime. Yeah.
I like that store because it's not unlike Giant and Safeway where you got to wait in lines and there's a bunch of people there. You kind of, not to be that guy, but you kind of keep,
but to be that guy.
But you are going to be that guy because that's.
But you kind of keep the non-members out of the store, so there's not so many people there. It's not packed. It's a cleaner store right now. And by the way, as candy goes, if you think about the worst candy in the world, it is candy corn. I like candy corn, but most people say it's the worst candy. But when half a pound bag of candy corn is now $5.99, I mean you can buy like 10 bags. I remember like a few years ago you get like 10 bags for like $10 of candy corn. Because it's just really cheap. It's basically just pure sugar and flavoring.
It is, yeah.
And it's not that expensive, but now that's like $5.99 a bag, and that was on sale. $6.99 was the regular price at Safeway.
How many pounds of this stuff did you buy?
Oh, I didn't buy any of it actually. I buy those.
I was going to say, how many miles do you have to run to work those off?
No, I like I said, I'm not. I used to.
He's an M&M's guy.
I have not had M&M's at all this year. I have been M&M free for 2024. And it started off as a 30-day resolution, which has just gone on to. Also, part of the reason is when my niece Nikita came over, I had an unopened bottle from Costco's of M&Ms. I just gave it to her, and she does like peanut M&Ms, even though she's in med school. But my point is, you've got. Everything's more. Thanksgiving dinner cost a lot more today than it did in 2020. Christmas dinner, everything's more expensive. And there's no real innovation out there either. If you look at it, we've been stagnant on the innovation front. There is no big ticket item I really want to buy that I must have because I've already got that. It's like how many more 70, 80-inch televisions can I buy? There's nothing. The technology has not improved enough for me to say, justify, hey, let me get rid of this and buy something new,
Hey, look, like I said when we had that lunch together a few weeks ago, I'm very curious about the whole Meta Ray-Ban glasses, kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
Which was right up, Marcus's alley, having gone so long with Google Glass and everything like that. But the Meta, those Meta Ray-Bans, and their new transitions, they've received rave reviews for what they can do.
I have not seen them in retail anywhere, though. I've seen them online.
I think you have to buy them online. I think that's the only way to get them.
See, I kind of would. I feel like I kind of want to test those out first, kind of like
Yeah, that too. That's how I feel too. But they've got a store that they run through Amazon and everything. So it keeps tempting me, and I'm like,
So if Marcus was on the show, he would, I think, point to the Cybertruck as being the must-have technology, right?
Yeah, well, I think the Cadillac Escalade is really the must-have because when you have a Cadillac, you have arrived. Nobody says that about a Tesla Cybertruck. You haven't arrived anywhere with a Cybertruck, Cadillac,
Look, a Cybertruck is a great conversation piece.
Yes,
and I
it
think,
is.
And Mark, I appreciate the fact that Marcus kind of gave me the run through, sit in it, press this, do this, showing some of the features of the Cybertruck, but also saying, you can't really put it in a garage, and it's extremely hard to clean the exterior. I mean, he was brutally honest that it's not a perfect scenario, with the Cybertruck, but it has some interesting features. It just costs a ton of money. I mean, there have been commercials for the Rivian and their truck, which looks more like a truck and it's got some neat features. But Tesla's got money. Rivian just like Lucid, they don't have. They're running low on money, and I wouldn't want to buy one of those cars because I'm afraid I would wind up with a brick. Because those companies.
Look at that, Governor Walker in the Cybertruck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what a great PR thing, right? You can run, Marcus had, he took that out to Milwaukee, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, how great is that? I mean, it's wonderful. He's driving around this thing that he can show other people. I mean, even when it was in the parking lot over there at the Rio, I was looking back as I was walking to the car. You can see these people, they're stopping and they're looking at it, right? They're just like, whoa, a Cybertruck, little kids, everything. They're just like dumbfounded, What a great thing.
And by the way, tomorrow at the Get Out the Vote rally, the Cybertruck will be making an appearance. The Cybertruck is now a celebrity.
What a segue. What a segue.
The Cybertruck's going to come on out and you can see
for Super Saturday. Go. You want to see that? Go to Super Saturday in Frederick.
So what are the details here, Dwight?
Well, it's in Frederick County tomorrow. It starts at 10 a.m. It's the Get Out the Vote because, as we know, early voting starts next week on Thursday or Friday, the 23rd, and it is going to be in Frederick tomorrow at 5112 Pegasus Court, Suite F, in Frederick, and Neil Parrott's going to be there. The Cybertruck's going to be there. So I feel like it's like, back when Budweiser World of Wheel used to do their shows, they'd always brought the Batmobile and Kit from Knight Rider. We've got our Batmobile. It is the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck's going to be there.
Hey, man, if you tell people that get a free 5-minute ride in a Cybertruck, you get all kinds of people showing up.
Yeah, and the Cadillac's going to be there too, but hey.
Are you giving out rides? Is that the...
No.
I
I don't even let people eat in the Cadillac. But that's for a complete. That's really targeted for because in my other trucks, a certain person who shall remain nameless.
But who we can probably guess who it was.
Yeah. After the movies, he had to get a big bucket of popcorn to take home and a refill of soda, and he spilled the soda and knocked the popcorn down in there. And I had to basically take the car in for detailing after that. So no more, you know who you are, you don't get to eat in my car ever again.
And yet you remain friends to this day.
Yeah. But they say sometimes you don't choose your friends, they choose you.
That's true.
But we're getting close to final thoughts. It's 6 to unless we want to go to extra innings like we have been for the last 3 weeks.
No, it's fine. We can try to do this on. Let's try to be on time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we didn't have. Let me do a final thought. We didn't have a chance to talk about the success the Israelis had in Gaza, in getting rid of Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who technically had only been a leader for a couple of weeks because he took over from the prior leader who was also eliminated. But Sinwar was particularly a vicious terrorist, and it's really good news that they were able to do that. On a partisan note, it's worth noting that both Harris and Biden had warned Israel not to go in to where they were in Gaza, where he was in Gaza, because it would be terrible and make things, and Israel basically decided, I think appropriately, to ignore those warnings and can continue the military operation. So hats off to them, and hopefully more reasonable minds will come to power. Although I'm not within the Palestinian community, although I'm not holding my breath, maybe there will be a reluctance of other people to step up to the leadership, and we'll see some moderation there.
Any other thoughts, Mark?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Don, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm piggybacking on that. Then is just that the you got to love the Biden administration, right? I mean, they're selling weapons and necessary arms to Israel, but then they come back and they say, oh, well, if you don't put more humanitarian aid into Gaza, we're going to we're going to withhold these arms sales and things. So exactly where does the Biden administration stand on Israel? Pretty hard for them to say we stand with Israel when they're playing both sides of this whole issue. It's just a shameful thing that they're doing there. But hats off to Israel. They got to keep it going. They have to keep it going. Let's on that one. The other thing too is we talked about Harris. One of the things that just got to me was just how she, identity politics is a big thing with the Democrats, and they see that they've lost some support among Black men, so she goes out with this program about we'll give you $20,000 to start a business. We're going to decriminalize marijuana. Oh, I was like, that's apparently a huge epidemic in the Black community.
That is the most offensive thing I think she said this entire season. Just want to sell drugs and get high. I suppose when it comes down to it,
amazing. It's like how much more damage can you do to your campaign when you do stuff like this? Unbelievable. I almost feel sorry for the Democrats that they have to do this, but they anointed her, right? She didn't win. She didn't get any votes in a primary. She was, they just went ahead and anointed her. So,
democracy is going to be safe. Democracy will be very safe under Kamala Harris. Look at how democratic the Democrat Party is.
Yeah, and I do want to say that Bill Clinton also gave the Trump campaign a big helping hand there when he was he talked about Laken Riley and illegals were not properly vetted, and she was, as far as we know, she was murdered by an illegal, and so it's kind of like, all right, who is she? He's supposed to be campaigning for Harris, but he just basically opened up this thing saying that illegals have not been vetted under the Biden-Harris administration, and they wound up killing this young college student. That was good. Somehow Bill lost the message in there. So great job by Bill on immigration.
I think Hillary made him sleep on the couch though after that.
And
he's had
a lot of experience being sent to the couch by Hillary.
I'm assuming the couch in Chappaqua is not nearly as comfortable as the couch in the Oval Office. He had to sleep on many a night.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, and just the last thing, because we had talked about economics a little bit, and Mark talked about what's going on here. So the economy, the Democrats and the media want to talk about how great this economy is, but yet we're seeing a lot of businesses close. It just seemed, the perception, at least for me, it's just that we're seeing a lot more close, here in the last year, 6 months to a year, than we have in a long time. The effects of high interest rates and a lot of other things have started to hit home with these businesses. You know, I mean, Walgreens is closing 1,200 stores. I mean, the Best Buy that's been in Rockville, I'm in Gaithersburg for 30 years. They're going to close by February. You know, we're just seeing, you know, these companies saying we can't make it anymore. You know, we had spread our wings out here, think that we had all this business, and it's all drying up. People aren't spending.
Well, Best Buy, I think the biggest part of the Best Buy is the service they give. The service is horrible. That's why they're closing, I think. But also the economy does play a big part in the fact that people just don't have the money to spend on big.
They don't have this. What you're saying is that they don't have the service that you get at Missoni's.
No, they do not. Let me tell you, I go to Missoni's. I
Kind of
get
apples and
bread,
oranges, isn't it?
I get my bread and the butter
Whatever
right
it
there
takes
within 30 seconds of sitting down at Missoni's.
All right. Well, anyway, that's it. Back to you, Dwight.
Yeah, my final thoughts are once more, keep the Waterman family in your thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
They're going through their tough times right now. Come on out to the Get the Vote rally in Frederick, Maryland, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. It will be at, if I can find the right tab. Well, it's going to be in Frederick. Go to mdgop.org. It'll be on there, the location, you know. But that, and also want to mention a couple of things. Call your councilman. Our entire county council wants to eliminate plastic bags and replace them with paper bags with a 10-cent fee. So they want to raise the tax 100% from a nickel to a dime for paper bags. I say save the plastic bag and bag the council. Vote for question 3. Vote against question 1. And vote for Trump. Vote for Neil Parrott, who is ahead, and he's probably going to be the next congressman from CD3. We are taking back District 6 this year. And vote for all the Republicans. It's so much easier than thinking, you know. So just vote for the Republicans. Vote for Larry Hogan for U.S. Senate. You know, if there's any places where we don't have a Republican, write in a Republican. You know. So early voting starts next week. So go out and vote. Vote early, Republicans. You know, don't wait till Election Day. I know I used to love voting on Election Day, but I will probably be voting next Thursday when polls open on the 23rd. And enjoy. And that's it. That's all for my final thoughts. Good night, everyone.
One more thing with Diana. We should just encourage anybody who watches the show to go ahead and contribute to her scholarship fund. I think that's a great
absolutely.
way. Okay, so make sure you check that out. I think it's a great way to remember Diana.
Yep, absolutely. And also, if you're on a Central Committee, let's nominate Diana Waterman for Woman of the Year this year. If you're on a Central Committee now, Republican Central Committee in Maryland, the forms went out I think earlier this week for nominations. Let's nominate her for Woman of the Year. And that's all I've got. We'll see everyone next week. Good night.
Good night.